Hey, everybody, and welcome to XSTEM All Access. My name is Justin Schaefer, also known as Mr. Fascinate, and I'll be your host for this multi day series showcasing some of the coolest minds in STEM. Today is the first of 4 days of inspiring XSTEM episodes brought to you by the USA Science and Engineering Festival. The mission of the USA Science and Engineering Festival is to inspire the next generation about careers in STEM. You can check out their other programs and events for teachers and students at usasciencefestival.org. Before we begin, please join me in thanking our partners, AstraZeneca, Discovery Channel, and the U.S. Space Force for making this XSTEM series possible. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Justin Schaefer, but the kids call me Mr. Fascinate. I've traveled all over the world inspiring young people about careers in science and technology. I've also hosted science TV shows for folks like Travel Channel, WGBH, and Al Roker Entertainment. I'm excited to share my zeal and zest and enthusiasm for STEM with you all in these action-packed days of XSTEM. I hope you're as excited as I am to get started because today we're going to get wild about animals. First, we'll hear from zookeeper and wildlife educator Jordan Veasley. Later in the program, we'll hear from tropical biologist and host of Discovery Channel's Expedition X, Phil Torres. And in between, we'll join environmental engineer Dr. Tracy Fanera and her Inspector Planet team for a climate change wrap. You're not going to want to miss a single minute of this. Whenever you're tuning in from today, make sure you show us how you STEM on social media. Get your parents' permission and share a video or photo of you doing your favorite science activities. Grab your phone and take a selfie while tuning in with us today. Teachers, show us what your students are doing in the classroom. Tag at USA Science Fest and me at Mr. Fascinate and use the hashtag #ShowUsHowYouSTEM. Speaking of selfies, there will be an opportunity for a virtual selfie with me a little later in the program, so make sure you have your camera on standby. Now let's get started. I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, Jordan Veasley, also known as Jungle Jordan. Jordan is a zookeeper, wildlife educator, and content creator who is on a mission to make learning about the animal world fun. In addition to his role at the Cougar Mountain Zoo near Seattle, Washington, Jordan uses social media as a platform to educate others about wildlife and inspire younger generations to be participants in conserving and repairing the natural world. What's up, Jordan, and welcome to the program.
What's going on? Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to see you, man. I heard a lot about your work. Really excited to see this presentation, and I'm looking forward to you knocking it out of the park.
Appreciate that. I'm ready to get going. All right. So, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jordan, and as Justin said, I am a zookeeper and wildlife educator, and I've been in the animal field for a pretty long time. I've been around animals as long as I can remember. So, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little bit of a slideshow to tell you what exactly a zookeeper is and what it is that we do. So, zookeeping is basically somebody that takes care of animals, right? We are the first line of defense to check out animals at zoos, make sure they're in good health, and a whole lot of other things. And there's many different ways to become a zookeeper. And for me, I got my start as a very, very young person. Basically, the beginnings of my journey, I was always obsessed with animals. I found myself gravitating towards them. I found that they were unique and very different. Growing up, I felt a little different because where I grew up, people didn't really like animals like that very openly. And so I felt like animals felt different and I felt different. So I wanted to connect with them as much as I could. So I figured out, hey, let me become a volunteer at the zoo. And I volunteered with with goats and sheep and all kinds of stuff, and it was really cool. So with me, my first steps getting into the animal world, right? I had to go at the zoo as a volunteer and then do these different internships. And I went to college, stayed in school, got my college degree, and just it's all about education. Like you have to stay into the field, the educational world, right? To learn as much as you can to develop those skills for you to become a zookeeper. So it took me, gosh, I would say mm, over 10 years of like free work before I could get my first job as a zookeeper. So, zookeeping, I've been lucky to have worked with a lot of different animals. I've learned many different traits of what a proper zookeeper is and what we need to do in order to provide the best care of animals. And like as I said, I like all animals. I've worked with reptiles, mammals, and birds. They're all fascinating. I find them all unique. And as a zookeeper, I've learned there's different ways to take care of each different animal. So to start off with your zookeeping job, what do? You're in charge of feeding the animals. You have to feed the animals. You have to learn what it is they eat. You have to do a lot of research into what you would eat in the wild and see what you can provide in the zoo. Because it's not like you can transport specific vegetables all the way from Africa for a hippo that lives in Seattle. And actually, here's a little clip that I'm going to show you right now of what it's like to feed a hippo in the zoo. All right, this one's gonna go in. It's my last one, I swear. All right, can I open up? Take a bow. So that was a hippo friend of mine who is was really good at catching food and you find unique ways of feeding the animals. Then the next step into the world of zookeeping is cleaning. So obviously, I would say 80% of my job as a zookeeper is actually cleaning animal exhibits in areas. Um, Sometimes the animals want to help you clean. Sometimes they just like being around you so much. And sometimes being around you can slightly get in the way of your job, like my zebra friend here in this video.
So Layla, I need to continue what I'm doing and keep cleaning. And you're just you have my wheelbarrow right now. I need you to move, maybe? No, you're gonna just keep eating? Okay. Enjoy that.
Layla was a good zebra. She liked to assist me because I was carrying her food, so I also was cleaning at the same time. So another big part of the job is healthcare. So you have to find ways to work with your animals in order to provide them the best care, right? As most zoos have vet staff on hand that can help take care of the animals, but how do you get your animals used to the vets? you know it's all through training, but we have to make sure like a giraffe, right? They have these long legs and these big hooves. You have to make sure those hooves are treated and they're not overgrowing, so you have to train them to present their hoof for hoof trims and things, and there's a lot that goes into it because they have round the clock care. In the wild, they don't have free healthcare. With us, they do to make sure we can extend their lives. And as you can see in the picture here, there's a giraffe stepping its hoof on a platform, getting X-rays of the joints to make sure one of its joints is working properly. Yes. Um, so, how do we do that? How does the vet get in place? The trainer, the zookeeper, myself, has to be on the other end, making sure they are occupied by feeding them or making sure if they are comfortable because we're the ones I see every day, so they're going to be comfortable with us more than the vet staff because vet staff can be kind of scary. So how do you get the animal used to this work, used to working with vets through training? So, animal training takes a lot of patience because these animals don't speak the same languages as we do. They speak animal. They speak whatever their own species speaks. So we have to figure out the their language. Basically, you have to get them used to how we move around, and we have to work around them. Like with the rhino is a severely large animal. You know, the greater one horn rhino can be 5,000 pounds when they're fully grown. And so, how do little 200-pound me ask this giant rhino to do something? Well, it's all through positive reinforcement. You have patience, and you take baby steps. Training is what helps them with their own care. Now, another big part of my job is through making sure people come to the zoo, make sure they're learning something, making sure they leave the zoo with a better understanding of the animal world and how they can help protect animals. We as zookeepers, I feel like, are the one of the first line of defenses against things like poaching, and just to have better help with conservation, because most of these people visitors that come to the zoo, most people aren't going to get the chance to go visit Africa or Asia and see these animals up close. So these animals at the zoo are like ambassadors, and ambassadors for the species. And I am the spokesperson for these ambassadors, so people can better learn about what's happening to those animals' environments and what's happening to them as a species. And if people better know what's happening, they can learn how to help protect them on their own. So that's a huge part of what I do with social media. I use my platforms to better, communicate with folks and get you guys to understand how you can help wildlife. So that's pretty much it for my little talk about what a zookeeper is. It's a brief overview, and now I'm ready for some questions.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for sharing that presentation with us. Man, you're compassionate, you're enthusiastic, and you have the dedication it takes to be a huge part of saving our planet and saving our animals. I got to ask you, man, were you ever, or were you always that good at throwing stuff into hippos' mouths?
No, I can tell you that it took a lot of practice, and I mean sometimes you make mistakes. Like I actually have a video I can show you right here where it doesn't always go in. A little bit of slow mo clip. It looks like it's going to be great.
uh,
Not so much.
ah.
I have another one though
Man,
where I actually was really good at the slow mo pick and slow mo video, and it went in, but that was the first try, and yeah, it
the
doesn't always
first
go in.
attempt. It's like it hit the
Yeah.
rim, but it didn't roll into the net. I
As a
get
basketball
it.
player, I know, that was those are always the ones that hurt, hitting
As
the
a
rim.
fellow basketball player, I can relate, man. But
Yeah.
a couple other questions. I know the audience is really interested in hearing some more things about your perspective. Might be hard to choose a favorite animal, so don't want to ask you that question. But I want to know, is there a creature maybe that you've worked with or not that you're most fascinated by?
Well, I can tell you I do have a favorite animal. I'm not supposed to as a zookeeper, but I do have a favorite animal. My favorite animals are cheetahs. I've never worked with them, but I just find them so unique and so fascinating because they're like cats. They are cats, but they're more like a dog. They're very dog-like and chill and sweet and just a fun animal. But I can tell you, since we're not talking about them, I'm talking about an animal I've worked with. I really enjoy otters and everything in that mustelid family, the weasel family. River otters are they're smart, they're sweet, they can be sassy. They want to work. They want to train with you. They want to be close to you. They're very social. I really just appreciate their personalities.
Yeah, no, I actually love cheetahs too. And river otters, that's an unexpected favorite. So didn't see that one
Yeah.
coming. Another question from the
Okay.
audience here about changes taking place in the environment. There's things like wildfires, increasing temperatures, climate change, habitat loss, and they're obviously impacting our wildlife. And how does that impact animals at the zoo? And what is your role in all this?
So with the things like the wildfires, that basically impacts the species as a whole, and people learn about what's happening to koalas, what happened to koalas in Australia with the wildfires. They saw those viral videos, and so when they go to the zoo and see the koalas, they learn, oh wow, this is the animal that is being destroyed, in their own environment. How can we help? And again, those ambassadors play that role of connection, of connecting people with the species. And what we do as the spokesperson of the ambassador, we are the voice for the animal to help educate people a little bit better. And since the animals that we take care of are not endangered specifically, because of wildfires, like the wildfires aren't reaching the facilities usually, but we keep them safe the best we can, in like climate controlled environments, and there's no poachers at the zoo.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, how about this one? Can you tell us the difference between an animal at the zoo and in the wild? Are there differences in behavior, temperament, things like that?
Depends on the species. There can be some differences. I've learned that some of the species get more used to being around people. Some of them, appreciate. They just learn how to act around us a little bit differently. I would say a lot of the animals in the wild are a little bit more shy. They're used to their environments, and they don't really want to have anything to do with us. Um, Primates is a different story. Primates, they're a little bit more like apes, like orangutans, a little bit more inquisitive, and they get very focused on what we are doing as humans. But for the most part, there's not that much of a difference between wild, because in the end, they're all still wild animals. They're not. It takes thousands of years to domesticate an animal.
Hmm. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. So, you definitely don't want to be walking up on animals in the zoo as if they're completely different, because yeah, they're not that far
Definitely.
off from animals in the wild. Right. So, question for some of our young, awesome attendees. If anyone wants to become a zookeeper, what is some advice that you give them as they're starting on their journey?
Stay focused. I would say look into volunteering, look into teen programs, look at your local zoo, look at your local rehab facility, look at your local shelters and see if there's any volunteering opportunities. The earlier you get into animal care, the earlier you can learn how to work with animals at a very young age, the better your chances will be of becoming a zookeeper. Obviously, stay in school, get your college degree, do internships, all these different things that'll help you on your way to become a zookeeper.
Jordan, thanks for your response to that one, man. I know a lot of us at home have pets and we might give our pets treats. So I'm wondering if at the zoo you all have treats that you give the animals there.
Oh, all the time. We do something called enrichment, where we do special themed items to make sure the animal stays stimulated and excited emotionally and physically. And sometimes I would make specific like cake-like treats for some of my animals. I actually have a video that I can show you right now. I'm making our Wolverine enrichment for Trek's birthday, which is the weekend of the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And in this one, I put just an ice block with some herring, there's mackerel, there's trout in here too. That's the first layer. And the second layer, I'll have some meat and some blood and some food coloring, of course. So what I'll do is I tip these out of the trays, and then I'm going to put them together and then put them in the freezer, and then we're gonna mold together. We're gonna freeze together, and it'll be one big layered cake. And I'm still going to add some fruit. I might add some vegetables for him. He's kind of a picky eater. He doesn't really eat his veggies, kind of like me. So we're gonna give, and we can give different animals like the skunk that I'm making enrichment for right now. It's a small little layered cake thing. As you can see in the video, there's mealworms in there, there's some gelatin pieces, and these are very unique for the animals to have because it's different from their normal diet. It's not something that they always would get every day, so it's very exciting, especially for this little skunk friend of mine, which he devoured in seconds and was getting all the mealworms out, eating the gelatin, and it's just a lot of fun to do things like that.
Jordan, that is so cool. I'm hoping the skunk didn't spray you afterwards and showed his appreciation in a different way.
So the skunk was actually no longer. So that skunk no longer had scent glands. They were removed. But even still, even if they did, they only spray when they're frightened, which I'm sure you probably could guess. And I was kind of creeping behind the bush there, so if I jumped up, maybe I would have frightened them. So I, didn't have much to worry about.
Gotcha. Well, Jordan, that was awesome. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have today. 4 questions. But hold on, let's not say goodbye to Jordan just yet. Jordan, you down to do a little virtual selfie with me real quick?
Of course, I'm always down. Let's do it.
All right, all right. So everybody at home, grab your phones, get ready. We're about to take this virtual selfie. For those of you that have done XSTEM in the past, you already know what time it is. All right. So I'm going to give you all on the count of 3, and we're going to do a couple different poses. One will be a smile, Jordan, and then the second will be a silly, goofy one. All right. Okay. All right. So here we go. 2, 1. All right. Get a few more seconds here. All right. Now we're going to do a really, really silly one, Jordan. You ready?
All right.
3, 2, 1. Man, okay. That was about the silliest face I could come up with. Don't forget to share those selfies with us. Be sure to tag at USA Science Fest and tag us at Mr. Fascinate and at Jungle Jordan 23 and use the hashtag #ShowUsSTEM. Everyone, please give Jordan a virtual high five, a virtual round of applause for that awesome presentation. And make sure you check out his YouTube channel, Jungle Jordan, for fun videos exploring nature, animals, and conservation. And don't miss one of my favorites, his Wild Wednesday feature on social media. Follow him again at Jungle Jordan 23 and see if you can guess the animal featured each week. Jordan, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you, man. You are definitely the coolest zookeeper I've ever met, and thank you for joining us today. Before we jump into our next speaker session, let's take a few minutes for a brain break. I'm excited to introduce my good friend, Dr. Tracy Fanera. She's an ocean scientist and environmental engineer who is making a serious impact on the health of our planet. Let's all get out of our seats and move to Tracy's rap about a very hot topic, climate change.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Tracy Fanera, and I'm a scientist at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Now, our climate is changing rapidly, and those changes are posing threat to coastal communities, ecosystems, wildlife, our drinking water quality, among other things. The only way that we can slow that change down is by working together to combat our use of fossil fuels. Let me tell you a story about 2 people that met and worked together to change the world.
Hey, can I get a beat? Hey, beat! Beat! Hey! I bet Bumble Day in like 5 minutes.
Is that him?
Yo, IPP.
Is it?
Let's kick it.
Ice, baby.
Hi, I'm David.
I was like totally in here.
All right, stop your Bumble date and listen. Trey is back on a brand new mission. Something that's debated tightly. Some say it's not real, others say it might be. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. But after this rhyme, you'll hope so. To the extreme, more than Earth can handle. Let's light up the truth like a Yankee candle. Damn! Sea level rises too soon. Hottest club in Miami, built on pontoon. Deny it, believe it, or look the other way. We all play a role, but the planet will pay. Climate is a problem, yo, let's solve it. Check out the sample while the centrifuge revolves it.
Ice, baby.
Polar.
Ice, baby. Ice, baby.
Polar.
Ice, baby.
Now that the temperature's jumping, with the shale drilling and the chemicals pumping, thick in the air to the point it's baking. Polar caps into a glacial laking, burning them. I'll keep it quick and simple. I go crazy when I hear this info. Now let's fight back at a souped up tempo. Stop burning coal, time to go solar. Rolling in my Tesla, yo, with my pedal down, no emissions flow. Scuba on the standby, waiting for the reef dive. Did you stop? Nah, I just drove by, kept on. Pursuing to the next drop. Pack my tanks and I'm heading for the next spot. The reef is dead, yo, so I continue to A1A, once Beachfront Avenue. Paddle down to Blue Martini, smallest rainfall, drawn a Lamborghini's jealous. Cause in a matter of time, the UB underwater Gainesville coastline steady. Grows the urban sprawl, the buildings keep rising, water quality falls. Sirens ring out like a bell. The Blue Lagoon now a Fountain Blue Hotel. Falling, the pH is real fast, plankton slowing down, longing for the past. Oceans to plants, the carbon is packed. They're trying to adapt, but the change is too fast. O2 on the scene, you know what I mean? Can't pass that up, humans be air. Pollution is a problem, yo, let's solve it. Check out the panel and the turbine revolving.
Ice, ice, baby.
Polar,
Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby.
polar.
Ice, ice, baby.
Take heed before the whole world shows it. Coastlines will be gone just in case you didn't know it. My town, where Super Bowl hopes go down. Missing snow when the Maui blooms come round. Spies and chemical spills. Dilution hides but persists and kills. Sustainability, yo, it's a hell of a concept. More forest fires burning in the west. Witness the weather start to change. Quick like a ninja, rocks you like a hurricane so fast. Jim Cantori say, damn, if knowledge was a drug, I would teach it by the gram. Keep Earth's composure when threatened by untruth. Magnetized by the job of preparing our youth. Innovation is the answer, yo, evolve it. Time to change your ways, work together and solve it.
Ice, ice, baby.
Polar,
Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby.
polar.
Ice, ice, baby. Ice.
Yo, let's get out of here. Word to your mother, Earth.
Thank you, Tracy, for teaching us about climate change while having fun in the process. Be sure to follow Tracy's wild adventures at Inspector Planet. If you're just tuning in, we're getting wild about animals, and I hope you're ready to meet our final speaker for the day. Can you imagine a job where you could be bitten by an anaconda, or tangled by a tiger shark, or get lost in a forest full of quicksand? For our next speaker, that's just another day at the office. Phil Torres is a tropical biologist and science communicator who travels all over the world for science. He spent 2 years in the Amazon rainforest working on new species discoveries and conservation projects. As the host of Discovery Channel's Expedition X, Phil takes viewers into the unknown by investigating supernatural encounters, mysterious creatures, and extraterrestrial phenomena. You might want to grab your passport because we're going on a field trip to Mexico where Phil is currently on an expedition. Phil, welcome to XSTEM.
Thank you, Justin. So happy to be here.
It's great to meet you, man. I'm super excited to talk to you and hear about all the adventurous things you're doing with your career.
Yes, to be honest, I got a great job. I have so much fun out here doing science and exploration. So I'm really happy to give you guys the time and hopefully help inspire the next generation of scientists. Actually, to tell you how much fun we have, we're about to go for a ride. Right over here, we got a helicopter that in about 30 minutes, we're taking off to go see a giant volcano.
A volcano? That sounds like a whole lot of fun, man. I'm hoping we get to hear a lot more about that. And before you take off, let's jump into some questions.
Let's do it.
So, what inspired you to become a biologist in the first place?
To be honest, my parents said since I was 2 years old, I was picking up leaves and bugs and all those types of things in the backyard. They were my favorite game. I would just try to find new things all the time. And then when I was about 7 years old, I had a mentor who was in college at the time, but he was discovering new species around the world. He was having adventures in Brazil and Africa and discovering new butterflies. And he would tell me these stories of spending a month in this remote place, 2 months in that remote place. And I just thought to myself, that sounds like the most fun job ever. You get to run around outside with a butterfly net. You get to explore the world, meet amazing people, and you get to actually contribute to science and discover a species that no one has ever seen before, documented before. It just felt like a really fulfilling and adventurous life.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like you had a mentor, which is super important for kids. And I mean, they steered you in the right direction, clearly. So, did your family background or your upbringing maybe influence that?
You know, my parents weren't in biology or science at all, but my dad is from Nicaragua, and they have a lot of rainforest there. A lot of it needs a lot of conservation work as well. Very undiscovered species out there. So I think that kind of helped fuel my dreams of saying, I want to go to the rainforest. I want to be a biologist and spend all that time out there. And in fact, when we went to visit family there when I was 13, that was my first experience in an actual tropical rainforest. And it sealed the deal. I said, this is what I want to do in my life.
Yeah, I can imagine how it must have felt like seeing the rainforest for the first time. I mean, I've yet to see a rainforest in my life, at least at the scale that you have. Did you have any other role models growing up?
You know, I grew up learning so much about science on television. I watched Steve Irwin, I watched Jeff Corwin, I watched nature documentaries all the time. And to me, that just fueled the education and the passion that I really wanted to pursue in life. Because let's be honest, sometimes some subjects in school, you don't always see how relevant they are to you. But I've learned in the long run that you can really work on your own passions, and you can find ways to let what you learn in school apply to those passions and really help you get the career that you're looking for.
Right, right. No, I mean, I can completely relate to that. Definitely growing up, I didn't always feel like I was inspired by science in the classroom, but a lot of times it's that action on TV that really inspires you and makes you feel intrinsically motivated to pursue a career in science. So the world is such a big place. How did you decide on where to go for expeditions and which animals you wanted to study?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. What place has the coolest bugs? As an entomologist, I study insects, and so for me, I grew up with these books of these bizarre beetles and moths and all, giant butterflies this big, and those were what I dreamed of seeing in my life. So now when I plan vacations, I say, where can I see some really cool critters, also into crocodiles or frogs or snakes, those types of things just really fuel my passion. And so if I'm gonna go on a vacation somewhere, I'm gonna relax a little bit, but I'm gonna do a lot more exploring and just getting muddy and seeing what I can find.
That sounds so cool, man. Can you tell us about some of your current research projects?
So my biggest research project right now involves spiders. So maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I helped discover a new species of spider that is the only animal in the world that actually makes a fake sculpture of itself besides humans, right? Like we can make a sculpture that looks like ourselves, but this spider in its web makes a body, and it can actually make 8 legs just like a spider has to mimic a much bigger spider. The spider itself is tiny. The fake spider it makes is much bigger, so it can scare off predators. So that's a big one that I'm researching right now because there's a lot of questions there. And that's what I love about doing the science I do is every time you get an answer or you discover something, you get 10 more questions. And you can answer all those and you get 100 more questions. And so it's just this field that is endless. It's fascinating. It keeps you up at night just trying to solve some of these things, and it takes you to some really wild places.
Man, that sounds really cool. Love to learn more about that spider sometime soon. Can you tell us about your research and how these discoveries are going to make an impact on people?
To be honest, a lot of funding for the type of work that I do is getting smaller and smaller. When it comes to discovering new species, when it comes to discovering new behaviors and documenting their natural history, people aren't as interested in that as they used to be. So what I really hope to do with my work is to inspire people and to show that doing this kind of work can reach a huge population of people and kind of ignite their imaginations and make them appreciate nature a little bit more and maybe even help with conservation. So that's kind of my goal with my research, is to really just spread the good word and show that you can have a huge impact on science just by discovering and documenting really bizarre, fun things.
Huh, got it. Well, I know I'm personally very inspired by your work, and educating the public is super important to me, especially when it comes to conservation, sustainability, and other environmental concerns. I'm sure you have a long list of critters out there that you've crossed paths with. What is the most interesting animal that you've encountered in the field?
I got to say the most interesting one I've encountered is the one that I can't quite solve, and that's that decoy spider I was talking about. It's that one that is the tiny spider that makes a big spider. Because how interesting is that? No one has ever seen that behavior before in any other intelligent animal. No bird does that, no octopus does that, no other primate besides humans does that. So that to me is just plain interesting.
So you would say the decoy spider is your favorite animal, or?
My favorite animal is a butterfly. I grew up with a butterfly collection. I still collect butterflies and photograph them, and I think they're just so much more complex than people know. People just think they're these pretty things flying around, but they do really bizarre stuff. They'll drink pee. I've seen them drink jaguar poop. They have really weird behaviors. A lot of them are still left to be discovered. There's a lot of fun things with them, and so for me, butterflies, it's my favorite animal.
Butterfly, huh? I think butterflies are pretty cool, but I don't know. Spiders are probably my thing more than butterflies are a little bit, even though some people are kind of scared of them. So, what's the scariest encounter that you've had while exploring?
The scariest encounter, listen, I've been face to face with things like anacondas. I've been face to face with jaguars in the middle of the night off trail in the Amazon. But the scariest thing for me when I'm out in the field is trees. Because when you're in the jungle and a giant storm comes through, each tree that can weigh thousands and thousands of pounds is essentially just waiting for its time to fall in the rainforest. That's kind of how the cycle moves forward. There is a single tree falls. And when one tree falls, they have all these vines connecting other trees. So you get a giant section of rainforest that can fall on you. So my scariest moment was being caught in an insane windstorm. I had to sprint 2 miles through the jungle, machete in hand. There was trees falling right in front of me, and I would have to run right underneath them to not get crushed. So it sounds like a funny answer, but to me, I'm always keeping my eyes on the trees when I'm in the rainforest.
Yeah, I was thinking it was going to be like an encounter with an animal. I definitely wasn't expecting trees or anything, but it sounds like when you spend a lot of time in the rainforest, that makes a lot of sense. So, what is the most interesting remote place that you visited?
Interesting and remote place I've ever visited, probably Mongolia. That was one of my first science expeditions I did when I was 20 years old, still in college, and it was just such a unique culture. The people there just appreciated the land. Everybody loved to sing. There was really weird food. There was like yak yogurt and stuff. And the science we were doing was really important. Also, apologies for the engine you may be hearing around here. We are out in the middle of a remote part of Mexico, and people are doing their thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like getting immersed, right, in a place and really experiencing their food and culture. So, what is the furthest place that you've traveled for work?
I've gotten pretty close to the North Pole. For one of my jobs, I was on the U.S. Coast Guard icebreaker Healy. So this is a giant ship designed to just ram through ice up in the Arctic. So I got to go pretty close to the North Pole, north of Alaska. That was as remote as you can get.
Oh, definitely. That's 100% on my bucket list for sure. So, when you're in the field, are there certain types of technology that you use to locate or track animals?
We use a lot of fun technology. I love using the FLIR. It's a thermal camera. So while the forest can look like there's a bunch of, just green, when you use this FLIR, you can get heat signatures of animals that might be hiding around there. So that's one of my favorite ones. And then there's a lot of technology when it comes to helping document what species it is. So genetic technology, so things you can do to actually analyze and transcribe DNA out there in the middle of the field that's a really new movement that is really exciting.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, what do you think the next big discovery is going to be in your field?
The next big discovery in my field, that's a tough one. I think when scientists are able to analyze genetics live in the middle of the field, like if you just had something you could just, take a photo of an animal or take a little sample of it and right away it would analyze the DNA and tell you what species it is, that would be a game changer because that would really help us document species around the world, figure out which ones need more assistance with conservation, and find out which ones are completely undiscovered and new to science.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I'm super excited about the prospect of that. So, let's say kids today want to take action and do something about conservation right now. Where could they start?
I would say educating yourself and then educating your parents. It has been shown over and over, a lot of sociology studies show that kids can really help influence the decisions that their parents make and the voting decisions. Because I know a lot of you can't vote right now because you're too young, and it's really important for your parents, I guess, to kind of make the right decisions and vote in the right people that can help on a bigger scale. The other thing you can do besides educating yourself is just fueling that passion. Keep that passion alive. I know too many people that tell me, oh, I used to want to be a biologist and then that kind of fell off. Keep that passion alive keep excited, see where it could take you, because there's a lot of great careers out here and you can really make a difference.
Definitely, definitely. I think it's super important if you're watching this, especially young people, we have to empower you all to inspire the next generation of scientists and tackle issues like conservation. I think that in the context of conservation and the environment, has climate or has the temperature impacted any of the animals that you're studying?
The changing climate has definitely affected the animals that I study because there's areas where the rainforest isn't getting rain. There's areas where there's a specific type of rainforest called the cloud forest that's basically covered in clouds the whole time. They're not getting clouds because the temperatures are fluctuating and they're too hot. And then it's kind of a complex climate system where heat in one area can affect the precipitation in another area. So that lack of precipitation, that lack of rain is really, really affecting the animals that I study. And that's kind of a scary one. There's a lot of scientists that have their eyes on it, that are trying to monitor how this is affecting rainforests. But you got to remember too that a lot of these trees out there are 800, 1,000 years old. So this is a really long cycle that this climate change is a part of. So we're worried that's what's happening right now could affect the rainforest for hundreds of years in the future.
Right. No, that sounds really cool. I mean, 1,000-year-old trees are fascinating to me. It sounds like there's some activity going on in the background. What's going on over there, man?
If you hear those fireworks going off, there's actually a celebration in this area of the patron of the village. So there's just fireworks going everywhere. That's kind of one of the fun things about getting to see the world in this way is I didn't know there was a holiday today, but we're seeing people celebrate it and hearing people celebrate it all around here.
That sounds like an awesome celebration. I mean, just based on what I can hear, looks like we have time for just a couple of more questions here. What other career opportunities are available for kids who are interested in animals and conservation?
One thing I've seen a lot over the last 5-10 years that wasn't in existence back when I was in college is this whole field of science communication. That's a lot of what I do for my job is you get really good at science, you do some of the research, but then you kind of shift your career to say, hey, I want to educate the public a lot more. You could start your own online YouTube channel. You could start a podcast. There's all these different ways that you can make a career out of just sharing the good word about science. So that's something that I think you should really keep in mind, that everything you do outside of science helps make you oftentimes a better scientist and a better communicator. If you do music, that's amazing, because I know some of the brightest scientists I know, that is their side passion, is they do music and they get to meet new people and talk about their passions with that. So don't think that you have to only stick your career to this one linear thing. There's so many ways that you can go and still be a scientist, still help conservation, and still have a really fun time and hang out with animals.
You know, as a science communicator myself, I 100% agree with you there. There's so many opportunities now to make science fun and accessible for young people and survive and get paid to do it. So I appreciate you highlighting that for sure. I know you have a helicopter waiting for you, man, but here's one final question for you. You mentioned you're in a remote part of Mexico. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing on location there?
So right now we are in Mexico and we are investigating. There's a lot of strange lights seen around this volcano here called Popocatépetl. It's a hard one to pronounce, but it is the largest active volcano in Mexico. It is about 18,000 feet high. Quite an adventure to get there. That's why we got to take a helicopter there today. And what's really fun about this show called Expedition X that I'm on is that we kind of take on these mysteries around the world and I get to approach it from a scientific perspective. So if people say they see strange lights around there, well, I get to talk to volcanologists, brilliant scientists around here who study volcanoes and say there's a chance that what people are seeing has to do with earthquakes around there releasing ions that create plasma, and basically an earthquake creating its own lightning. And some of these lightnings can look like just balls of light flying around. So this mystery that seems like something kind of paranormal can actually be something that is just as fascinating, just as mysterious, just as honestly undocumented as earthquake lightning.
That is completely fascinating, man. Listen, I got the next seat. Next time you get on this helicopter, I'm joining you for it. And we'll have to tune in to Expedition X to check out that volcano, Phil. It's been an absolute adventure talking with you today, man. Thank you so much for joining us, and right before your adventure at that, and talking about your exciting career. So everybody, please join me in giving Phil a virtual high five and a round of applause.
Thank you. It was such an honor talking to you all, and just keep at it. If you got that excitement in you and say, hey, I'm thinking about being a scientist, please go for it. See where life takes you. There's a lot of great careers out there that'll take you to some really fun places. But I've got a helicopter to catch, so see you later. All right, let's go.
For even more on Phil, tune in to Expedition X on the Discovery Channel and follow him along on social media at Phil_Torres. I'd like to again thank our generous partners at AstraZeneca, Discovery Channel, and the U.S. Space Force for supporting this XSTEM All Access program. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to tune in at the same time tomorrow for Real Life Robotics featuring robotics innovators Jasmine Lawrence and Easton LaChapelle. And don't worry if you can't watch live, because the entire series will be available on demand at no cost. Visit usasciencefestival.org for more. Mark your calendars for our next event, the SciFest Virtual Expo in October. At SciFest, you'll virtually experience exhibit booths featuring hands-on interactive STEM content from hundreds of organizations. Catch superstar performances on the STEM stage, hunt for clues in the scavenger hunt, take selfies in the photo booth, earn points to win prizes, and so much more. SciFest is a free event, so don't forget to register at usasciencefestival.org. I'll definitely be there. It's been a blast meeting an amazing group of STEM mentors today, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.